Kazami Yuuji is a pathetic loser who acts like he has binged every tutorial on how to be like Ayano Koji on YouTube. Tired of his traumatic past and his job as an assassin, he decides to live an ordinary high school life. However, he meets anything but ordinary girls at the academy all ready to rizz him up. On his first day after moving into the city, Yuuji gets into trouble with a police officer. After Yuuji tells him that all of his relatives are dead and he has no place to stay, the police officer screams at him, questioning him if he is a terrorist. However, Yuuji responds that he is just an ordinary student. Later, the police let him go after receiving a call from the Ministry of Defense to release him. Exiting the police station, he meets an ugly nerd-looking woman waiting for him outside. Both get inside the car and she starts driving him to his new high school. While on their way, she asks the reason for being detained. Yuuji replies that the police officer requested to search his luggage, but after refusing, he got into that mess. The woman gets scared and releases the steering wheel, thinking that Yuuji used a gun. This dumb move nearly made both of them a new victim of truck cunt. However, Yuuji handles the steering wheel and saves himself from becoming an MC of another poorly written anime by a degenerate author. As they arrive at Mihama Academy, the woman introduces herself as Takabana Chizuru, the principal of this academy. Yuuji finds it strange that the school is empty even though it's a weekday. The principal mentions that the school only has 6 students, including him. Yuuji wonders if it's truly an ordinary high school. The principal assures him, saying it is indeed the ordinary school according to the conditions he had put forward. She guides Yuuji to the dormitory, where he meets a girl wearing a maid outfit. She introduces herself as Kamine Sachai, the class representative. She shows Yuuji his well-maintained room and leaves. The next morning, Yuuji wakes up showing his cake and does his Patrick Bateman morning routine. While running, he reflects to himself that the current situation reminds him of the times when he lived with his master. He recalls her words and the things she had taught him. Yuuji comes back to the dormitory and takes a shower. After getting ready, he opens his room door to get to the class. Upon opening the door, he finds a girl falling in front of him. Another little ugly girl comes in running while covering her hair and jumps on the couch. The red-haired girl jumps over her and tries to brush her hair. Yuuji asks them what kind of wrestling they are doing. The red-haired introduces herself as Suu Amade, and the little ugly girl says her name, Irisu Makina, in a strange voice. Later, Yuuji enters a classroom where he finds Matsushima Mikairu trying to be a tsundere to look cute, but she is too ugly to be one. She freaks out when Yuuji notices her fake blonde hair color, which she had dyed as a sign of a cry for help. Soon after, the remaining Power Ranger squad arrives along with the principal. After their class, Sachai gives Yuuji a complete school tour and walks away. Yuuji heads back to the classroom and finds Sakaki Yumiko sitting on a chair, reading a book. Turns out, she comes to school only in the evening. When Yuuji tries to introduce himself to her, she pulls out a box cutter and tries to cut his neck. However, Yuuji grabs her hand and says it was nice meeting her. When Yuuji returns to his room, he discovers it is already unlocked. Upon entering, he finds Amane without any plot armor. After seeing this, he wonders why he is forced to see only fangirl even though he isn't using Twitter. Yuuji casually walks to the fridge and compliments her cannonballs. Seeing his calm reaction, Amane asks Yuuji if he has any sisters. He replies that he had one sister named Kazuki, who died years ago. Amane gets shocked after hearing his sister's name. After changing her clothes, she asks Yuuji how she looks. Yuuji says he'd rather be ice-skated by truck kun than look at her ugly outfit. Amane gets up and says that she will be his new sister from now on. After closing the door, Yuuji wonders how she got into his room even though he locked his door in the morning. With a lockpick in her hands, Amane remembers a terrifying scene of a bus crashing and says found you. Yuuji receives a call from JB, who tells him he has some work to do. He pulls out a sniper rifle from under his bed, meaning that he won't lead an ordinary life after all. The next day, while walking through the corridor, Yumiko attempts to kill Yuuji again with her box cutter. However, Yuuji dodges it with ease and wonders what kind of past made this woman loosen up her brain screws. While reading a book in the schoolyard, he sees Makina sleeping under a tree. He checks up on her and then sits under the tree. When Makina wakes up, she goes to a pond and feeds the fish. Being a true fan of Stephen Hawking, Yuuji follows her around. When Makina tries to catch a crawfish, he tells her to be careful. Upon hearing his voice, Makina gets scared and almost falls into the pond. Yuuji catches Makina before she can wet herself. Makina thanks Yuuji for saving her and calls him Oni-chan. After hearing this, his inner predator wakes up. Subsequently, he teaches Makina about the crawfish and how to catch them. After some time, Makina thanks him for playing with her and gives him her apple. In the principal's office, Yumiko says to the principal that she isn't happy with Yuuji being in the same school as hers. However, the principal tells her to calm her cannons down. Later, Yumiko tries to get the last bit of information on Yuuji to dox him like a true Pokemon fan, but she finds nothing about him. The following day, in an attempt to hurt Yuuji, Yumiko trips, revealing the cake that can't possibly fit in a large oven. However, everyone acts like they didn't see Yumiko embarrass herself. She gets up and walks away like nothing ever happened. Later that day, the principal tells Yuuji that Yumiko thinks of him as an intruder in this school. That's why she is acting like she wants to eliminate him. The principal asks him if he is used to this new life. Yuuji replies, saying that he hasn't, but admits to having fun. Yuuji finds JB waiting for him outside the school. However, Yuuji ignores her existence just like his parents ignored him during his childhood, but he goes to meet her after she calls him by his name. JB tells him she is only here to check on him, ensuring he is enjoying his new normal life. Yuuji says that he has no problem adjusting here. Before leaving, JB gets angry at him for walking 200 kilometers into the city, even though she had booked a train ticket. When Yuuji enters the classroom, Amane curiously asks about JB. Yuuji tells her that she is nothing but his senior in his part-time job of garbage cleaning. Thanks to her goldfish brain, she buys his lies. Amane also questions if JB is his girlfriend. To this, he counter-questions, saying that if his ugly face looks like it attracts the opposite gender. After getting a satisfying answer, Amane walks away. In the evening, when Yuuji returns to his room, he gets attacked by Yumiko again. However, Yuuji catches her hand and gives her a cold stare, making her scared of him. He explains to her that he is not her enemy and they should get along. Yumiko questions him if he has any weaknesses. Yuuji says that he won't answer this. Yumiko leaves, saying that she will find his weakness one day. Upon returning to the dormitory after his usual morning run, Yuuji sees Amane sneaking into his room. He plays along. However, when Amane enters his room, she starts snorting his clothes like devil's lettuce, which makes her so high that she starts playing with herself like a DJ. While running to their class, Yuuji teaches Makina a poem about what Amane was doing in his room. In the afternoon, Yuuji sits on a bench to read his book but gets interrupted by Mikairu's voice, who is busy getting troubled by a cat. Yuuji tells Mikairu to use her fake smelly blonde hair to scare the cat away. Shortly after, the black cat runs away after realizing that Mikairu is a bigger black omen than itself. In the hallway, because of lack of sleep, Yuuji unconsciously agrees with Sachai to make him a nice pink shark pouch. After realizing he will feel like a twink wearing that, he asks Sachai not to make it. However, Sachai tells him that it's halfway done. Yuuji, not wanting to make her feel bad, tells her to make him a bush dog pouch instead of a shark one. Yuuji gets annoyed by his sleep deprivation and starts banging the wall. Shortly after, Sachai comes back with the finished pouch. Before Yuuji can grab it, Mikairu snatches it and gives it to Makina. Yuuji thanks her for saving him in this awkward situation. While playing, Amane gets injured. Yuuji carries her to the nurse's office and treats her injury. When Yuuji attempts to leave the room, Amane grabs him and asks him to be her boyfriend. Yuuji instantly rejects her, but Amane requests that she'd like to be his big sister if he doesn't mind, and Yuuji agrees. In the classroom, Amane, Makina, and Yuuji eat lunch together that Amane has prepared. Amane stuffs her meat in Yuuji's mouth with her hands, making me regret my life decisions. Yuuji sees Mikairu standing on a cliff, admiring the ocean. When he gets close, he notices that same black cat, getting along with her. Mikairu admires nature and calls it a gigantic box. She asks Yuuji about how humans feel when they die. Yuuji replies that it feels like sleeping and never waking up again. Mikairu smiles and says it's not bad after all. She requests Yuuji that if she dies, bury her in this place. On a stormy night, Yuuji tells the other girls that Mikairu is acting strange. All girls exaggerate the situation. Makina calls Mikairu an alien, while Sachai says that the original Mikairu has died and this one is an imposter, like in horror movies. Yumiko gets scared because of the sudden thunder. Later, all the girls leave to go back to their rooms. When Yuuji enters his room, the lights go out. He hears a sudden scream and rushes to the scene. He finds scared Yumiko on the floor in the hallway. Suddenly, Mikairu appears from a door, soaking all wet, and starts walking like a zombie. Yuuji takes Yumiko's hands and hides behind the stairs. However, Mikairu ignores them and goes downstairs. Yuuji heads downstairs as well, where he meets Sachai. She explains what kind of tribal dance Mikairu is performing, and mentions that it's normal for Mikairu to do this act. The next morning, Yuuji, Amane, and the rest of the girls discuss whether the opposite genders can become friends. Mikairu appears and takes less interest in this topic than she would have usually. She hands her bag to Amin and runs off somewhere. Yuuji decides to go after her and finds her sitting near a fountain. He asks her if she's feeling down. However, Mikharu says not to worry about her and leave. Later, Yuuji finds her sitting on that same cliff with the cat. After noticing his presence, Mikharu says she doesn't like this place, unlike her other half. She continues her previous conversation with Yuuji and questions what he would do if the sleeping person woke up again. However, Yuuji decides to go back to the dormitory. Mikharu gets up and asks Yuuji if she can kiss him. Yuuji permits her, but after kissing him, Mikharu comes back to her senses and starts acting like her old self. The following morning, Mikharu starts annoying Yumiko like she usually would. She notices Yuuji spacing out and asks if he is thinking about her. Yuuji leaves the classroom after admitting it. However, curious Mikharu keeps following Yuuji, wanting to know what's on his mind. After Yuuji decides to tell her what happened between them, she runs to the courtyard, where she finds the black cat. However, the cat runs away. Later, Yuuji and Mikharu find the cat dead on the road. Yuuji stops a taxi to take the cat to a vet, but the cat dies in Mikharu's arms, making her cry like a child. The next morning, Yuuji finds Mikharu unconscious on the floor in her room. He finds some drug pills near her and takes her to the nurse's office. Mikharu recovers the next day and comes back to her tsundere personality. Later, on the rooftop, she tells Yuuji that she has buried the original Mikharu within herself and she will never allow her to overcome her again, hinting that she's the next Moon Knight. In the evening, Sachai gives Yuuji a box that belongs to Mikharu. Yuuji accidentally opens it and discovers a journal inside. Later, he confronts Mikharu about the journal that was written by the original Mikharu. After reading the journal, he finds it hard to believe that a personality exchange was possible after a heart transplant. The personality within Mikharu's body belongs to the heart donor. The imposter Mikharu claims that the original Mikharu will not return. Yuuji surprises her by questioning whether she desires another chance at life. He forces her to swallow pills that the original Mikharu used to suppress her other personality. After taking the pills, the original Mikharu's personality resurfaces, and before passing out, she tells Yuuji her wish to die. Upon waking up, Mikharu finds herself trapped inside a coffin. Yuuji declares his intention to grant her wish by burying her where she wants to be buried. Mikharu recalls feeling worthless and wanting to die in middle school because she was picked on by her teachers. One day she builds up the courage to jump from the school roof, and she sees a girl who is also about to take her own life. Noticing Mikharu behind her, she doesn't jump. Later, both become best friends. However, the day comes when Mikharu witnesses her friend going isekai. Mikharu suffers from a heart attack, leading to a heart transplant surgery in America. Upon waking up, she realizes that there is another voice inside her. To suppress it, she attempts to end her life with a box cutter but lacks the resolve to do it. Eventually, she accepts and adopts a new personality. However, after meeting Yuuji, she comes over her past and looks towards her future, burying everything inside herself. Mikharu wakes up and barely manages to get out of the coffin. Yuuji comes and takes her hand to pull her out. He mocks her wish to die because she couldn't withstand staying inside the coffin for 3 days. He tells her that he knew all along that she didn't want to die, so he waited outside for her. Mikharu thanks Yuuji for doing this for her. Yuuji carries her on his back to the academy. While on their way, Yuuji tells her that the pills he gave her were just candy, meaning it was Mikharu herself all along. After some days, Yuuji drives Mikharu to her parents' home. After meeting her parents, she thanks Yuuji for doing all of this for her. After that, the other personality of Mikharu never came back. In middle school, Yumiko enters the class and finds her classmates gossiping about her, and when one of the girls tries to approach her, Yumiko cuts her hand with a box cutter. Back to the present, JB hands over the reports of Yumiko to the company's president, Mikiaki Sakaki, Aka Yumiko's father. JB tells him that his daughter's mental health is stable now, and she has an investigator, Kazami Yuuji, watching over her. Now that Yumiko's mental health is better, her father wants her to return home. However, Yumiko doesn't want to return to her abusive household, and she wants to stay at the Mihama Academy for longer. Yumiko's father will do anything to make his daughter return home, even attacking her to indulge fear in her heart. JB orders Yuuji to stick around Yumiko and get beaten up in front of her when the company's men attack Yumiko. However, when the moment comes, Yuuji disobeys JB's orders and decides to whoop those guards' butts. Yuuji and Yumiko both take shelter under a bridge from the rain. Yumiko says to Yuuji that he is strong enough to survive in this world, unlike her. When it thunders, Yumiko gets scared and hugs Yuuji. It is then she decides to share her traumatic past. Her father wanted a son who could inherit his company, but Yumiko was born instead. Due to her mother's sickness, she couldn't have another child. The whole family looked down upon Yumiko and her mother. All her life, Yumiko couldn't get close to anyone. Yumiko used to visit her sick mother every day until her mother said to her that she wished a boy was born instead of Yumiko. Upon hearing those hurtful words, Yumiko rushed outside of the hospital room while crying. Soon after, her father's mistress gave birth to a boy. Her mother was so shocked that she did this, and in her last note, she apologized for not giving birth to a boy. Later, her brother died of sickness, which left no choice for Yumiko's father other than to raise her as the company heir. He created the Mihama Academy to hide her from society. One of the guards sees them and reports to Yumiko's father that Yuuji didn't go along with the plan. The rain stops, and Yuuji and Yumiko head back to the academy. Upon reaching the academy, the principal calls Yumiko and explains if she doesn't accept studying abroad, her father will shut down this academy or expel Yuuji. However, Yumiko doesn't give a straight answer and heads back to her room, and then she calls someone on the phone. After a while, she looks through the window that her father has come himself with full protocol. She comes outside and greets him in true American style by shooting at him with a gun. However, she misses it because of a skill issue that she inherited after being born as a girl in her family. JB comes with her whole SWAT team like they're swatting Ishospeed. Yumiko continues shooting at her father, reminding him what he did to her and her mother. However, Yumiko's father comes out of the cover and tries to approach her but gets a shot in his right shoulder. JB orders her team to seize Yumiko, but as soon as they move, Yumiko pulls out a grenade and blows herself up. After the dream of getting an heir for his company crushes, Yumiko's father prays at his daughter's grave. He finds Yuuji there, who thanks him for not shutting down the academy. Yumiko's father reveals that it was his daughter's last wish for the academy to remain as it is. He leaves after saying that he's proud of having Yumiko as his daughter. To everyone's surprise, Yumiko appears from a tree and tells Yuuji that she faked her death to start her new life in the academy with everyone else. Sachai notices the change that Yuuji has brought into everyone's life. She wonders if she deserves to change herself like the others. Later, while watching TV, Makina challenges Sachai to count to 10,000 when she takes a bath. Sachai accepts her challenge but passes out before she can beat it. Later, Amane comes in and finds Sachai acting like GTA Vice City's character. She takes Sachai to her room and treats her with some ice. Before leaving the room, Yuuji hears the unconscious Sachai say his name. Yuuji takes a day off and decides to roam around the city. Eventually, he reaches a park, and the memories of him playing with Sachai start coming in. Meanwhile, the principal announces that their exams are starting. After hearing it, Mikairu reacts like any other sane student would react and requests Sachai to get rid of the exams. To everyone's surprise, Sachai accepts her request. At night, in the dormitory, Amane tells Yuuji that Sachai has locked herself up in her room in preparation for getting rid of the exams. He decides to talk to her, and Yumiko informs him of a girl who set her school on fire to cancel the exams. Yuuji tells her if anything like that happens, he will ensure everyone's safety. In her room, Sachai starts making bombs to blow up the entire school building. Everyone starts noticing her strange behaviors during the lectures. Sachai starts staying up all night to note the optimal locations to plant the bombs and starts sleeping amidst the lectures. The night before their examinations, Sachai plants the bombs. However, just as she finishes giving the final touches, other girls arrive in the classroom, telling her that Yuuji had invited them here. Sachai panics, thinking that bombs will explode while they are here. The timer on the bombs runs out, but they don't explode. Yuuji enters the room and orders everyone to leave except for Sachai. He tells her that he has modified the bombs to freeze when the timer hits 0. Upon hearing this, Sachai's inner ice cubes melt. Yuuji tells her that he went to the park where they first met and asked around till he met her uncle. Sachai reveals that her parents adored her when she was little, and they ran a small factory. However, her parents became busy with their work, making her feel lonely. When it was her 10th birthday, she ran away from home. Sachai's parents ended up in an accident when they searched for her. Her father died, and her mother fell into a coma. Yuuji recalls Sachai helping him deal with his worries when he was a child. His master had advised him to repay the kindness, so that's what he does. Yuuji consoles Sachai, saying that she did well to come this far on her own. Later, Yuuji detonates the explosives outside, which turn out to be fireworks, and everyone enjoys watching them. The following morning, Yuuji and Sachai visit the workshop that was decorated for Sachai's 10th birthday. Sachai cries while reading the heartfelt letters written by her parents for her. Later, Sachai visits her mother in the hospital. In the courtyard, Makina requests Yuuji to be her father from now on. Everyone in the dormitory is shocked after Yuuji breaks the news of adopting Makina. Later, the principal hands over Yuuji the documents about Makina's family. The documents reveal that the Irisu family was involved in corruption at a national level. Upon discovering the truth, Makina's real father tried to expose them, which led to Makina's kidnapping. He was shot right in front of tied Makina, causing her to develop aphasia. She was cut off from the family's inheritance, and her little sister took her place. Later, the girls plant some trees in the yard and invite Yuuji to join them. After that, the principal tells them that their first semester is over and their summer vacations have started. Now that it's vacation, Yuuji has become Makina's full-time dad and teaches her things that dads only teach their sons. He buys her a toy sniper rifle and trains her. While they're practicing, Yumiko comes to the schoolyard, not knowing that Makina and her new father are doing some father and son stuff. Yuuji tells Yumiko to stay away from the areas marked by red flags and invites her to join them. However, she refuses, saying she'd prefer mating him in a game of chess. Makina calls her boring, so Yumiko clenches her cheeks. After some time, Yuuji and Makina depart Amin to the train station. Not having anything to kill their boredom during the vacations, Makina tells Yuuji that they should visit his home place. He tells her that he doesn't have a home but a grave he visits in Yamanashi. He decides to take Makina to Yamanashi on his bike. During their journey, Makina asks Yuuji about his master. He tells her that his master, Kyusuke Basako, was like a mother to him, who saved him from an evil person. She raised him as the man he is today. Because of his master, Yuuji developed a mommy kink. Upon reaching the house he grew up in, Makina notices a portrait of Yuuji with his master Asako and JB. After that, both clean the house and visit his master's grave. Yuuji says his prayers and pats John's grave beside Asako's. Makina thanks Asako for raising Yuuji. After coming back, Makina runs into her little sister, but ignores her. When her little sister enters the car, it explodes. Makina was close enough to get injured. Yumiko and Mikairu take care of her in the dormitory. When Yuuji enters the room to check on her, Yumiko tells him that only Makina's little sister was the Irisu family's target, and Makina just happened to be there. After a while, Makina wakes up and asks Yuuji about her sister. He tells her that her sister will survive and he will always be there to protect Makina as her father, causing Makina to tear up. Yuuji receives a message from JB to report to headquarters. Upon reaching there, he is shocked that JB assigned him to assassinate Makina. While lying next to Yuuji, Makina remembers her kidnappers telling her dad that his cheating wife had plotted his death during the kidnapping. She hugs Yuuji and starts crying. Meanwhile, JB and her team in the headquarters are having a hard time locating Yuuji and Makina. However, they only manage to locate Yuuji alone, but the signal gets cut off after he defeats JB's men. 20 hours ago, back in the academy, Yuuji and Makina bid farewell to the other girls and decided to go into hiding because their lives were in danger. Mikairu gave them money, Amin provided food, and Sachai gave them an apple tree sapling as a sign of hope. While in the city, Yuuji and Makina ran into JB, who revealed that the Irisu family feared Makina because she threatened to expose their corruption and family affairs unless they ensured her little sister's safety. Consequently, Yuuji was tasked with eliminating Makina. However, he says he is ready to sacrifice himself to protect her. In the real time, the white-haired girl pinpoints Yuuji's and Makina's location. JB orders her men to infiltrate the hotel. Yuuji and Makina hide in a freezer, but when the SWAT team arrives in the room in which they are hiding, suddenly, the smoke grenades that Yuuji initially had crafted detonate, causing the room to be filled with smoke. Suddenly, a toy-like grenade explodes. Using this opportunity, Yuuji and Makina take one of the guards' uniforms and flee with their van. They ditch that van in a parking lot. Makina remembers that they left that sapling of hope back at the hotel. Like a true horror movie side character, Makina returns to the hotel. After looking through many rooms, she finds the sapling in an odd location. A guard finds her and orders her to stay at her location. Makina pretends to run into the room but tackles him, putting him in a chokehold, fulfilling his fantasy. After making him nearly pass out, Makina lets go of him and stands up. However, she gets shot at by another guard. Nearly passed out guard stands up and fulfills Makina's fantasy of getting stepped on. Yuuji arrives at the scene and defeats them. He carries Makina and rushes to the hospital. However, JB stops him and explains that she won't survive, given her situation. Yuuji hands over the injured Makina to JB, who admits her to a hospital, where Makina's mother visits her and asks JB if her internal organs are fine because her little sister needs a donor. At night, Yuuji infiltrates the Irisu building disguised as a mailman and kills Makina's mother. The news reporter breaks the news that the man who killed Makina's mother has eaten himself. Now that JB has the documents containing the evidence of the Irisu family's corruption, Her organization wins a guarantee for their safety. Yuuji and Makina arrive back at the academy after some days, and everyone welcomes them. When Yuuji enters his room, he finds Amin doing his chores for him. She acts like his wife, but Yuuji treats her like his ex. Later, after kissing Amin so as not to make her jealous of JB, he accepts her as his girlfriend. She falls to her knees and starts crying. She reveals that his sister, Kazuki, was her classmate. Amin tells Yuuji that 6 years ago, a tragic bus incident happened, and she was the only survivor. Later, she gives Yuuji a diary that has all of the details of what happened 6 years ago. Yuuji reads that Kazuki tended to the wounds of the injured classmates, and the teacher using the methods she had learned from reading various books. When the teacher regained consciousness, Kazuki informed him that a flattened tire caused the accident. Everyone was grateful that they had survived the fall from the cliff. Kazuki suggested that their best course of action was to wait until someone came to their rescue. They gathered the supplies they had and set up camp to spend the night. The following morning, Amin wakes up and finds Kazuki missing. She goes to the forest and looks for her. Kazuki appears from behind when Amin chants her name. Kazuki shows her some edible grass that she picked up, worrying that the food they already have won't last for longer. Amin tells her that she was worried for her. Kazuki apologizes to Amin for leaving without telling her. Back at the camp, every girl is desperately trying to catch signals on their phone. Amin goes to a tent where Kazuki is looking after the wounded girls. Later, both head to a flowing river to fill up their bottles. Amin confesses to Kazuki that she likes her more than the rest and she is glad to be paired up with her. Kazuki starts blushing, so Amin starts teasing her, and Kazuki falls into the river when Amin tries to hug her. However, before Kazuki can say anything, they hear the sound of a helicopter. Everyone tries to draw its attention, but the helicopter just flies away. However, Amin rushes to the wrecked bus and pushes the horn, causing the helicopter to return, but it ignores them again and never returns. It's been 3 days since they got stranded. 3 girls passed away due to their injuries. The teacher picks them up and buries them somewhere in the jungle. Later, while picking up some flowers, Kazuki mentions having a little brother. She adds that she loves him even though he is worthless and a disappointment to their parents. Amin starts crying while missing her home. Kazuki hugs her and promises to get her home safe and sound. In the following 2 days, the food supplies start running short. With only 10 carrots left to divide among the 11 people, Kazuki displays her expertise with carrots by slicing and rearranging the carrots to ensure everyone gets a share. However, by day 7, Kazuki notices that one of the girls refuses to eat due to fear of needing to use the bathroom, despite her legs being paralyzed. The girl starts crying when Kazuki unzips her sleeping bag, revealing her crippled legs. Kazuki consoles her. Later, Kazuki notices Amin sitting alone, but when she gets close to her, she notices Amin bleeding from the neck. Kazuki starts sucking the bleeding spot, fearing that there might be venom inside it. On the 8th day, Kazuki tells Amin that the teacher will leave tomorrow to scout a way out of the forest. Amin fears what would happen to them when their teacher isn't around. However, Kazuki ensures her safety and says she will do anything to save her because she loves her. On the 9th day, the teacher leaves to find a way out, taking half of the remaining food supplies with him. Every girl is filled with worry, fearing that he might not be successful, and with short food supplies, their chances are very low to survive. On the 10th day, Kazuki tells Amin to stop saying what she's writing in her journal. She gives Amin snails to eat to lighten up her mood. Later, when checking up on the injured girls, Kazuki notices that their wounds are getting infected and getting worse. The crippled girl has lost all of the hope and says she wants to die. However, Amin cheers her up. On the 11th day, one of the girls loses her mind and starts acting weird. With each passing day, the girls lose hope, yet to survive. They consume whatever they find and drink the murky water, even though it upsets their stomachs and makes it hard for them to sleep. Day 12 comes, and Komori's dog dies. Kazuki suggests eating it, and the other girls agree. With disgust on their faces, they eat the dead dog. Even as the other girls lose hope and their sanity, Kazuki remains optimistic about their survival. The next day, she tells Amin about her little brother, Kazami Yuuji, and expresses her intention to introduce him to Amin. As they converse, the teacher emerges from the bushes, looking like an African child, meaning that he failed to find a way out. Later that evening, the crippled girl died. While the teacher was taking the dead body to bury, the same thought passed through every girl's mind. Realizing that she is losing her sanity, Amin breaks down. On the 15th day, 2 more girls pass away. One eated herself and the other one died because of sepsis. Every girl loses her mind completely and starts wishing for others to die. As they are starving to death, the captain comes with some meat, claiming the teacher has caught a deer. Ame takes her and Kazuki's share and goes to their tent. However, Kazuki refuses to eat it, fearing it might have some kind of disease. After hearing her response, Ame decides not to eat it as well. At night, Kazuki wakes up Ame and tells her to look at the teacher going into the forest with the team captain. She tells Ame to get ready to leave this place. Ame shows concern for the girls, but Kazuki tells her that they are just ghouls now. Both leave their tent, and as they walk, Kazuki advises Ame not to make any sudden noise after she witnesses something horrible. Later, they hide behind the bushes and see the teacher feeding the hungry team captain his seeds. Ame screams when she sees her dead classmates' corpses. She realizes that the teacher and the team captain have been feeding them the meat of the dead girls all this time. The teacher hears her and starts chasing them. Kazuki turns around and strikes his head with her backpack, knocking him out. Both run for their lives as the other girls have also turned against them. However, Ame trips over a tree root. Her legs stop working out of fear. She pulls out a knife from her bag and tries to end her life. Kazuki says she will fulfill her promise and plays the role of decoy. She gives her a note containing the instructions to survive this forest and her bag and pushes Ame to run away. Other girls catch up and grab Kazuki. Ame sees Kazuki smiling while she meets her end. Ame runs away while asking for forgiveness from Kazuki. On the 20th day, Ame wakes up and continues walking. She collapses and hallucinates, imagining Kazuki and her classmates. Suddenly, she hears cars passing and finally sees a road. She walks into the lettuce field nearby and starts crying while munching a lettuce. When she returns to her school, everyone starts questioning her regarding that incident, making her feel guilty. She would have nightmares every night, and even therapy didn't help her. Then, Yuuji came into her life, who was perfect to punish her for the sin of surviving alone. Ame apologizes to Yuuji for keeping all of this a secret, since he lost his sister because of her. Ame tells Yuuji that she will do anything he says to pay the debt of his sister. Yuuji explains to her that she is merely doing this as her duty, not because of her romantic feelings for him. However, Ame admits that she indeed fell in love with him and requests Yuuji to kill her as her punishment for letting his sister die. Yuuji smacks her head and tells her to live for his sake as punishment. She bursts into tears and uses Yuuji's shoulder to cry on. After her crying session, Yuuji questions her if she believes that Kazuki is dead since no one found her head after her body was torn into pieces. Ame recalls Kazuki making 11 carrots out of 11. She shows Yuuji the note that Kazuki gave her and tells him to go to that jungle again, hoping she will find something about her. The next morning, Ame leaves to buy flowers for her classmates' graves. A creepy man approaches Yuuji and introduces himself as Sakashita. He claims to be a fan of Ame and leaves saying that he has things to do. When Ame returns, they start their journey. They reach the forest and locate the site mentioned in the note. After digging, they uncover a container containing a letter from Kazuki. In the letter, Kazuki reveals that everyone died from the illness that got from eating Hiroka's meat. Since Ame never ate it, she was saved from meeting the same fate. Kazuki requests Ame to look after her cowardly little brother, Yuuji, and says that leaving him is the only thing she regrets. She concludes the letter with a hopeful note, saying they may meet again someday if they both survive, leaving Ame uncertain about Kazuki's death. Later, they visit the graves of Ame's classmates, where she offers her prayers and says that she won't apologize for surviving alone, but instead, she will thank them from now on. Yuuji notices a familiar name on one of the gravestones. As they prepare to leave, Ame and Yuuji receive a call from that creepy fan of Ame, who reveals himself as the father of Sakashita Chiaki, the basketball team captain. He demands that they return to the academy. At the academy, the creepy fan has taken the girls hostage. JB arrives with her men. Yuuji and Ame return, and Yuuji plans to use his sniper rifle from the lighthouse, which is 900 meters away. He gives Makina instructions in Morse code to break the boys' urinal on the 3rd floor. Makina starts screaming and says that she needs to use the bathroom badly, and Mikairu says that her stomach is upset as well. The perverted man falls for the ruse and takes them to the boys' bathroom as Yuuji intended. He pushes Makina into Mikairu, causing her to break the urinal. Later, he calls Ame, threatening her to enter the academy quickly or he will shoot her friends. Yuuji advises Ame to take water with her and keep the man busy until he needs to use the bathroom. When Ame enters the classroom, the man forces her to wear her uniform. After drinking the water, he starts blaming Ame for his daughter's death. He calls it unfair that his daughter had to die and Ame was the only one who survived. He attacks her with the back of the rifle and starts tossing her around. He then locks Ame in the bathroom. While he's distracted using the restroom, Yuuji shoots him in the shoulder. Amane takes his gun and runs away. JB's men arrive to arrest him and take him away. The principal thanks Yuuji for his hard work. Yuuji calls this school his home and says that he doesn't care if this school isn't ordinary. Makina hugs Yuuji when he comes to meet the girls. In the end, there's a scene where a man launches rockets at nearby ships, while another man with blonde hair and sunglasses casually takes a bite of chocolate. That's it for today, my fellow men of culture. Like and subscribe the channel for more plot-filled recaps.